So what we want to do is cultivate cultivate a capacity for kindness. So, close your eyes. Take a few moments to breathe in and breathe out. Alrighty, chat. How's everybody doing today? Welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Alok Kanoja. Just a reminder that although I am a psychiatrist, nothing we discuss on stream today is intended to be taken as medical advice. And everything we're talking about on stream is intended to be for educational and entertainment purposes only. So if you all have a question, concern, please go see a licensed professional. And that's where you should be getting your medical advice. So super excited today because we're going to be interviewing the one, the only, the Ironmouse. So excited about that, you know, so we'll learn a little bit about what it's like to be a VTuber. And, you know, so that'll be cool. Couple of other quick announcements. I think we're going to do like most announcements and stuff at the end, I believe. So let me, yeah, but how y'all doing? Y'all good? Everything good? Yeah, I'm glad y'all are liking the new music. Y'all vibing with it? Bring the music back. Okay, we'll set up. I think the music is, am I correct? It's made by people from our community, actually. So, I think so, right? So that's what's awesome about the HG community is y'all are all epic and awesome. I may let me just double check and make sure that I am offering the right attribution. Yes, this is music that's made by our community. So let this be a lesson to all of y'all out there that if you think you can create something awesome, don't let your anxiety or fear that someone else can make something better get in the way. Create your own awesomeness. And be who you are, right? Accept yourself and then like work on it. And I don't know if this was made as kind of a collaboration or what, but it's pretty hype. Yeah, so maybe we'll like play, I don't know, we'll figure out, I'll start the stream so that y'all can vibe out to it earlier. Okay, let's hop into our interview with Ironmouse. So let me do this. Okay, and then I'm gonna do this. And then I'm gonna do this. And then, hello?
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, does that sound okay? Can you count to 10 for me, Ironmouse?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Hey!
I'm going to just put on my headphones, which are kind of scuffed.
Well,
But that's okay. Just so that we don't get... Can you say something for me?
something.
Awesome. Perfect. That's so good. Okay, let me do this. I just got to figure out... Okay, we're gonna full screen that, and then we're gonna go. Oh, I can't see you though. Is there
Oh,
something
let
to
me.
see?
Yeah. Let me see.
I
Let me
just
make sure
realized
I
I was
don't.
about to interview myself.
Let me make sure I don't show anything weird.
Are we not supposed to
Uh.
be showing weird things?
Oh. Well, we can if you want to.
Um.
Uh. Hold on. I'm learning how to. Oh, here we go. There I am. Hello.
Oh wow, that's cool. Welcome,
Yeah, you
Iron
can see
Mouse.
me now.
You're you have a tail.
I do. I have a tail and I have wings. I can make them go away.
Oh, oh, that's cool. But whatever makes you feel comfortable. And
Oh, I feel. Okay.
so so let's start by what do you want to what would you like me to call you today? What do you go by?
Well, you can call me Mouse.
Okay,
Or
Mouse.
Mousy. It's okay. Yeah.
And thank you very much for speaking with us today, Mouse.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I am honored to be here.
Well, we're honored by your presence.
Whoa. No, it's just me. I'm nothing special.
Well, I think the internet would disagree.
Wow. Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
so tell me a little bit. Is there something in particular that you want to talk about today, or anything that we can help you with?
Oh my god. I don't even know.
Cool. That's totally fine because I have so many questions.
Do
Um,
you?
yeah.
Okay.
So can you tell me a little bit about how you decided to become a VTuber?
Well, um, I have. I think the main reason why I decided to become a VTuber was, well, I decided that I wanted to stream. Because I was really lonely and I wanted to make friends, and I did not feel comfortable being on camera because I have a lot of health problems. So I was very apprehensive about being a flesh tuber, as I call it.
Mm.
I just I did not feel comfortable. I have a bit of a long history with not feeling comfortable with myself.
Hmm.
So a friend of mine actually suggested to me that they were like, "Oh, there's this program that you can use, and you can be like a character. You can be an enemy girl." And at the time, I saw there was another VTuber. Her name was Kizuna Ai, and she was like a really big thing. And I was like, "Wow, if I could do that, I would love to do that." But I just figured it would be like it would cost a lot of money. But a friend of mine got me a program, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll try to start the streaming thing as an anime character.
Hmm.
And I did. And it was a lot of fun. At first, I don't know. I just did it because I wanted to make friends. And I was just like really nervous to be on camera. And here we are now.
Yeah. So tell me, what was your experience? Help us understand how we got to where we are now and what where now is. So what was it like when you first started out?
Well, I when I first started streaming, I did it because I wanted to make friends, and I was very lonely because of my health issues. I never used to talk about my health issues before. I was always very nervous because I kind of like, to me, I wanted to be seen like uh, a normal person,
Hmm.
so
Of
I would
course.
never talk about it. And I just really wanted to be friends and talk to different people. And I didn't really think I was particularly interesting. But I kept on streaming, and I started off very small. And it wasn't until the pandemic happened that things started things started picking up, and I started growing a bit more. And now I have a wonderful community that supports me a lot, and I feel I've never felt more myself than I have in my whole
Hmm.
entire life as Iron Mouse.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Can you
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about what the pandemic was like? You mentioned that things started to change a little bit during the
Well,
pandemic.
I guess because I've always had to be kind of isolated because of my condition, but because of the pandemic, I had to be even more isolated than usual, and my family had to stay home, and I guess I don't know, it was just like a shift because there were so many more people online, and I think at the time that's when like VTubers started like really picking up,
Mm-hmm.
and I started getting a lot more people watching me, and it's been a really interesting turning point in my life because I finally was able to start, making money streaming, which I never used to do. And I was able to afford better medical care for myself. And I've
Wow.
slowly been improving in my health because of that. And it's thanks to my community. So I'm just very grateful. And, I don't know. It's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff has happened. And
Yeah.
it kind of like
Wow.
happened so fast that it just feels like, ugh.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's so interesting. So I assume that you just moved, and then the VTuber moves with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
It tracks my movement, like
Okay.
exactly.
Wow. Does it track your facial expressions?
Yes,
So, if
I'm smiling right now.
can you make a sad face? I'm curious what that. Oh, interesting. Okay. Thank you so much for
You're
demonstrating that.
welcome.
So, Mouse, there's a lot of different things that I'm curious about, and I'm wondering if like we could, which of these you'd feel comfortable with, or which ones sound interesting to you.
Okay.
There's a lot from your story that I think we could learn a lot about. So a lot of times people try to figure out who they are. So people
Mm,
will sort of say like, how do I determine like, is this my true self, or is this like me being conditioned? How do I know what I want versus like what society wants? So there's a lot of stuff about identity and
yeah.
who we are, and so it's so interesting to hear you say that you feel more like yourself than you've ever felt before. And
Mm,
so I think that we sort of have at our disposal almost like an entirely new way of understanding or experiencing identity, and whether what we can sort of learn from your experience of your identity could like we could learn something that could benefit everyone.
yeah.
So that's like one thing. You mentioned early that you were really lonely and kind of nervous and you wanted to make friends and stuff. And so I was a little bit curious about that and what your experience of streaming with like that was like. You've also mentioned your health problems, and I just wanted to clarify whether you're comfortable talking a little bit about that in more detail. I know it's more medical information, but and so those are kind
Um,
of the three things that I'm sort of curious about.
yeah, I don't mind touching upon that a little bit. It's I do get a little nervous talking about things, but I think I'll be okay.
Sure. And because you also mentioned earlier that you used to be nervous talking about your health because you
Uh,
wanted to
I,
feel normal. And so I'm also a
yeah.
little bit curious about what about your health made it hard for you to feel normal earlier.
I was born with a genetic disease called CVID. It's a primary immune deficiency disease. My body doesn't make antibodies to fight against infection or bacteria or viruses, so I have to be apart from people a lot because I catch
Hmm.
things very, very easily, and I've lived my life getting sick a lot, and because of that, I developed a lung condition, and I'm on
Oh my God.
a breathing an oxygen concentrator, and I'm on like uh I get so embarrassed talking about. I have like a. It's very embarrassing for me to
What?
talk about. I just feel very like
What? Well, so
uh.
first of all, we don't have to talk about it if it embarrasses you, but I'm
Oh,
kind of
it's okay.
curious. So, can I just clarify a couple of things? So you said you
Yeah.
have CVID, so that's common
Mm,
variable immunodeficiency.
yeah.
Okay. And what makes you embarrassed as you talk about that? Can you help me understand what makes that embarrassing for you?
I think it's just it's hard to say for me because I feel like uh my whole life I've had to see people, live their life normally, and to me, I always felt like an outsider, like
Hmm.
looking at other people living their life, and I've always felt kind of like stuck. Uh and growing up and like becoming an adult, I noticed that a lot of people's experiences are way different than mine
Hmm.
because due to my condition, I haven't really been able to live as much as a normal person. So I feel like I can't really like connect with others that well, and it it makes me feel, kind of sad about. I feel kind of sad, but I also just feel really embarrassed because I feel like society like places like this pressure on us that we have to hit certain milestones and we have to be some type of person. And because of the fact that I have never hit those particular milestones, and the fact that I'm not like I like to say I'm not a normal human, I've always felt like an alien. I've always felt like not normal. And when I talk to people, I feel that like a lot. And I feel kind of ashamed. And I think it's just because of the pressures of society. I've talked to other people that have like chronic illness as well, and they've shared a similar
Hmm.
viewpoint to mine. So it's streaming has really like changed my life where
How so?
I'm able to communicate with people more, and I feel like I've connected with so many people, and people talk to me talk to me, and I feel like they're not focused on my medical devices, and they're not focused on the fact that I might do things a little differently and live my life a little differently. And it's really nice. It's really nice to have somebody treat me normally and not like I'm about to like break at every step, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Wow. It's clear to me that so first of all, Mouse, you're very eloquent.
Well, thank you.
I've worked with people with chronic medical conditions as well, and I think after a year of group therapy, the conclusions that we'll come to is something that I think you share very, very beautifully. This sort of idea that, and I'm kind of curious about a lot of things that you said, but I think it's really profound to hear you sort of say that life, we sort of had this expectation that life is supposed to go like this. Like if you're 6 years old, you go over to friends' birthday parties. And when you're 9 or 10, you have a sleepover. And then there are just all these experiences, which like normal life is what we call a normal life. And
Mm,
that you were essentially denied those experiences, right? So then how do you
yeah,
feel about yourself? How do you you don't feel normal. And then furthermore, society kind of judges you for that, right? There are all these, as you said, milestones. And
yeah,
so, if a normal person, if a healthy person, if a good person, right? Because we also place value judgments on a lot of these milestones. If you're not able to participate in those, how do you start to feel about yourself? Like there's a certain amount of like shame that comes with not, I don't know. The best example I can think of is there's a certain age at which people start asking you, okay, like when are you going to get married and stuff like that, right? And then like if you're not following that standard track, or when are you going to get a job, when are you dot dot dot, there are all these assumptions, right, about what your life is
yeah,
supposed to be like. And there's kind of this like idea that if you're not going to do those things, no one ever asks you, do you want to get married, right? People just are sort of like, they try to bucket you based on what society kind of expects. And then if you don't fall into one of those buckets, then you kind of like are a weirdo.
true.
And so it's really interesting to hear you kind of share your experience about being an outsider.
Yeah, I've had I've had a lot of time to myself.
Uh huh.
I've had a lot of time to think about things and to reflect, cuz it's like when people with my condition like as much as sometimes the medical system wants you to believe that you don't have time. Sometimes all you have is time because you kind of like when you live the life that I've lived where it's like I'm basically isolated most of the time. It feels like a moment is like forever and not it's like time is like so strange because it feels like a day can be a month, but a month can be a minute. It's so weird. And I've had a lot of time to think about myself and to think about all the stuff that I've been through. And it's
Can
a lot of thinking.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. Can you tell me a little bit about what have you discovered as you have time and you think about yourself? I'd love to learn more about what you've discovered about yourself, identity, the nature of humanity.
I mean, I don't think I have any good answers because
Why
uh
not? Why do you think you don't have any good answers?
I don't know. I just feel like I'm not experienced enough. I feel like I'm always learning and I just have horrific self-esteem issues. It's pretty bad. But it's because of everything that I've been through. I feel like when a person has to deal with a chronic illness their whole life, it's like there's stages of like disease process where it's like at first it's not that bad, but then when the severity
Mm.
increases, things start getting taken away and
What do you
it's
mean by that?
traumatic. Well, it's like you start feeling like you're losing things, like you're losing your freedom and you're losing your ability to do normal human things, which is something that I experienced. Basically, because there was a moment in my life where I was kind of normal and my life was, I was going to school and
Hmm.
I had friends here and there, but it wasn't like as normal as I wanted it to be. But as I grew up and I got older, my the severity of my condition got worse, and I slowly started like losing things. I started losing the ability to be able to go out, connect with other people. Uh, I had a moment of my life where I couldn't really speak. I had a moment of my life where I couldn't walk. I've
Wow.
had very traumatic experiences happen to me where it's like you just feel like everything's just being taken away from you and you have to kind of like you have to learn how to be you have to learn how to accept the fact that you're not the same person that you were before and you're going through changes and you may not like the changes, but unfortunately this is what's happening and I've had to try to like pick up whatever pieces of myself I had left to be able to continue and to be able to be here right now.
Yeah. What's it like to have things taken away from you? Like that
uh,
sounds horrifying.
it's like a nightmare. It's very scary. Uh, but it's it's something that I couldn't stop it from happening because when you get diagnosed with something and they tell you, well, in this amount of time this is what's going to happen and this is what's going to happen and eventually this is going to happen and you kind of know what's going to happen, you kind of expect things to happen, but you're not truly prepared until it starts happening. So it kind of like it's a lot.
Can you tell me, Mouse, if you feel comfortable? Like, I'd love
Mm,
to hear an actual example or like
mm,
tell me a story because I'm so curious. Because what I'm getting from you is sort of like the lessons that you've learned and kind of the conclusions that you've come to, the ways in which you've grown and learned to accept things.
mm.
But what I'm really curious about is like how you got to where you are, right? So I'm
uh,
really wondering because I think that certainly your situation sounds quite severe, but I think there are people out there who have had things taken away from them, and I'm so curious. It's almost like, in a sense, the reason it's kind of sad, but the reason that you're so good at growing and learning from it is because it happens to you like over and over and over again.
yeah. It
You know,
sucks.
right? And so that sucks, but at the same time, I think you really do have something to offer and something that we could learn from in terms of like, what is that experience like for you? Because when you say you learn to accept it, it's like, I mean, not everyone, right?
No.
And right?
I Yeah, I think I like somehow a long time ago something in my brain broke, so I'm kind of like
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I used to be very I still think I am emotional at times, but there was just a moment where I just something in me was just like I got to do something with my life because if I just sit here and I'm just content with everything if I just accept everything that's happening to me, I'm never going to do anything and it's just going to get worse and I'm not going to be happy. So, that's once I don't know, I feel like
Can,
something kind of like
can you tell me about that more about that moment? What was going on in your life and
mm,
do you
well,
remember?
it kind of goes hand in hand with my previous life, which is kind of like how I want to refer to it. But so when I was in school, I was studying opera at school. I really wanted to become an opera singer. It was like my dream. And when my condition started getting worse, unfortunately, I had to quit school and I had to quit singing. And I just thought, this is it for me. That's it. There's nothing else left for me. Uh, I'm just gonna fade away and never accomplish anything in my life. And it took me a very long time to accept my situation. I was very upset for a long time.
Hmm.
I was very sad, very angry. I was questioning. I was just like, why is this happening to me? And why doesn't it stop and why doesn't it get better? I don't understand. What did I do?
Mm.
And
And
yeah,
what kind of answers did you come up with when you ask, why is this happening to you? What did I do? Why isn't it getting better?
it just got to the point where I just decided there is no answer. And it happened because it happens. And I could either just keep on wondering why or just say, well, it happened. What do I do now? And I slowly started trying to find things that made me happy again and trying to find things that I liked again and trying to find myself as a person, which I kind of lost myself for quite some time because I fell into like a very dark part of my life when my condition started getting worse, where it was just like, I just, I just, I couldn't I just didn't I wasn't happy at all. But with that's why with streaming slowly I found myself again. I was able to talk to people, which is something that I really wanted to do. I really wanted to connect with people again and feel like I have friends and I wanted to I don't know. I guess like try to like be more open and be more accepting of myself and just really like experience myself and learn what do I like, what don't I like. And with streaming, I started singing again
Hmm.
and it's funny because it's like I feel like all the things that I wanted to do that I was dreaming about doing when I was a kid, I'm doing it, but I'm just doing it in a really strange, different way than I ever thought that I would be able to do it. So I thought I wouldn't be able to do the things that I want to do, but I kind of am doing them. I'm just doing them
Certainly.
extremely differently and in a way that I never thought I would ever do 'em.
Yeah, what I'm kind of hearing is that there's like an essence of what we want. Like if you think
Mm,
about being an opera singer, I don't know necessarily that it's opera, but there's something about, there's like, what is it about being an opera singer that appealed to you? And that we can oftentimes sort of find that same essence in a different path
yeah.
of, being on stage or sharing something with the world. And something that also, when I think about opera, I don't think about, there's something kind of tragic about opera?
Yeah, a lot of tragic stories in
Yeah,
opera.
right. And I mean, if I'm listening to this story, I think like this could definitely be an opera. You know what
Oh
I'm saying?
God.
Right? Like, am I?
Yeah.
It's almost like your whole life has become an opera.
Oh God. Oh dear. Oh,
I mean, I don't know too much about opera, but right?
maybe.
Because there's like tragedy and like we don't even the other thing that I'm terrified of is if your life is operas. My understanding is that most operas don't end well,
Uh,
which is where I hope you live happily ever after. But you know,
I mean, well, I have dark humor. It's fine.
I think you need to survive what you've been through.
Oh God, I do. I have a very I make a lot of dark jokes sometimes. I feel bad because I typically keep them to myself, but there've been moments where it just slips on stream and people are like, "Mouse, what are you saying? No, don't say that." And I'm like, "Sorry."
Yeah, I think there's a correlation between dark humor and how dark things are. I think
Yeah.
sometimes the darkest humor that I've ever seen is from people who are terminally ill and people who are taking care of people who are terminally ill.
Mm,
And so
yeah.
there's just something about how humanity grapples with that. But yeah, so that's so interesting. So what I'm kind of hearing is that in a sense you're living your best life like kind of right now.
Kind of, yeah. I'm still going through a lot of things. But I've I've never felt more. I feel alive, and it's something that I haven't felt in such a long time. I didn't even think it would ever be possible for me to feel alive again, and I feel like I'm actually living my life, and I don't feel like a spectator anymore. Because
Yeah,
I felt
watching
like
from
I
the
was like,
outside.
yeah, I felt like I was. It's kind of why, like, it's funny because I kind of tied in my life into like my VTuber lore, because when you're a VTuber, you're kind of playing a character, and my lore is kind of like my real life, where it's like, I'm
What do you mean by
so
lore?
my character, my VTuber character, I am supposed to be Satan, and I was trapped in a box in hell, and I was released from a box in hell, and now I live on Earth, and I uh am a live streamer, and in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a parallel to my real life because I've always felt like I was trapped in a box,
Certainly.
and it's a way that I've been feeling my whole life, where it's like I feel like I was inside this box just looking at everybody living their life and seeing my family go through their lives and experiencing things, and I'm just watching everybody do all these things, and I
And
can't
now
do
you've
them.
been you've been unleashed upon the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And so you're taking the internet and the rest of the world by storm.
I'm gonna take it all.
Yeah.
Or not, I don't know.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I wonder I mean, you talk about this person as a character, right?
Hmm.
Your mouse as a character, but what I'm kind of hearing from you is I don't know. I mean, it really makes me wonder about blurring the lines of what's real and what's
Yeah.
fake.
She is me. She is me. I am her. It's just a more I feel like Mouse is like she's just a me dialed up to like 100, which I'm dialed up to 100 all the time anyway, but this is like
Well,
more.
I mean, I would imagine, and here I'm just tossing this out that I think there are parts of you
Mm.
that sound like they're dialed up to 100, but I imagine that mouse also helps you dial down parts to 0.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is very true. It's
Um,
like we go hand in hand.
yeah. Makes me wonder a lot about just, quote unquote normal people and
Woo.
and whether I think sometimes we may take it for granted how much we're actually doing what you do as well. I think you're closer to normal. The more that I talk to you, I mean, I don't think you're weird, really, or
I have
abnormal.
people tell me that all the time, but it's just something that I felt. I've always felt like I was not a human. I felt like
When did
a
you start feeling that way?
a creature. Uh, I started feeling like a creature. I want to say since I was like 4 years old, when I could like. I feel like at 4 years old, I officially like was aware that I was alive.
Hmm.
Like with a, I had thoughts because I feel like before that I didn't really have any thoughts, so I can't say. I only go by stories that my mom tells me, but around 4 years old, I think, because that's when stuff started getting very complicated, and
How so?
I uh so my condition, like it had stages where it was like when I was very young, I was very sick, but then at around a certain age, it kind of calmed down. But then when I hit another age, it got worse, and it's been like a downward spiral ever since. But around 4 years old, that's when things started getting pretty difficult, and I started to realize that I affected my family like a lot, and I
Hmm.
was very aware. Uh, I was very aware of the stress that my parents had to endure because of me, and
How
I've kind of
how were
like
you aware of that as a 4-year-old? I'm curious. What is like? How does a 4-year-old understand that?
I don't even know how I knew. I just knew that my parents were always my parents. So I come from a Puerto Rican household. My parents are always they're very they're very Catholic.
Okay.
They're very Catholic, and they are very worrying. They worry a lot. And they are very emotional. They're very emotional people. Uh and
What does that mean? Emotional people.
they're very open with their emotions,
I
and
see.
yeah, they're very open,
So
and
expressions of love, expressions of fear.
yeah, very very open about it. And I think it was a lot for me to handle.
Sure.
I appreciate the fact that they were very open with me, because I feel like it made me aware of their feelings a lot,
Hmm.
and I don't know. I feel like there was some good in it, but I also feel like it was kind of not that good.
How so?
Uh, because it made I felt a lot of pressure, uh, growing up because of that. Because
Pressure
I
to do what?
pressure to be healthy, so that my parents wouldn't worry about me because I felt like a burden on my family my whole
Hmm.
life.
So
Uh,
I'm
yeah,
almost I can imagine that you maybe felt responsible for their stress.
yes,
Like maybe if you were healthier, they could all relax and chill out and wouldn't have to cry or other things.
yeah. That's part of the reason why now, I take care of my parents so much. I I am doing everything in my power to make their old old age years be as comfortable as possible. Because I just felt like I was um I was very rough. I was a very difficult child to have.
Help me understand what made you a difficult child to have.
Um, uh, I there was a lot of moments with my parents where they were worried about me and worried about my health, and I saw things growing up where uh my parents were very desperate to see how they could fix me, and they didn't understand why I was born this way. Uh they felt, there were moments in private that I witnessed that I know I wasn't supposed to see, where my mom felt like she did something, and that's why I'm the one that was paying for it. And I think it's because of like the whole Catholic guilt thing, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like Catholic guilt going on, and I was taken to a lot of like faith healing, which was very shame on them for preying on my mom,
Well,
because it made me very sad.
can or do you feel comfortable talking about that? I find myself being very curious.
Um, I could talk about it a little bit. I don't want to go too much into detail, but when my parents were they tried everything. My mom thought, oh well, if I take her to this prayer circle or this healing thing, she's gonna be fine. Or oh, somebody from church said if I just get her like this type of plant and I make it in like a tea, she's gonna get better. And it was just like a lot of like things where I could see growing up, I could see the increasing amount of stress that was weighing upon my mom, where she felt like she was trying everything and nothing was working. And it just grew more and more anxiety in me, uh, to the point where I was just I think that also attributed to the amount of like guilt and embarrassment that I felt because I just kept thinking, well, if I try what they want to try and if it works, then that's great and they're going to be happy and it's going to be great and it's going to be fine. But unfortunately, that's not how things work. And, I've had to feel guilty for a very long time. I felt like I was a cause of a lot of stress uh, in my family's life. And, yeah.
I mean, I'm just kind of imagining that, in a weird way, it's like the harder they try, there's like more desperation and more desperation and more desperation.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, like the more desperately they try to fix you, I'm just sort of thinking that the one thing that gets reinforced each time they try something stranger and stranger and stranger is that the one truth at the end of the day is that you're broken in some way. So in a bizarre way, I'm almost wondering if like that's kind of what gets reinforced there, right? Which is like, and then you're sort of left with this burden of you see your parents like bending over backwards and doing this and that, and like they clearly want you to get better, and you really want to get better, but you sort of can't. But you kind of feel like responsible for not being able to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's basically what I went through. I felt very responsible for a lot of pain that my family went through, and in turn, I had my own pain, but then I also had the pain that I felt
Sure.
like I was inflicting upon others because of my issues. And it was just a lot of it grew a lot of like self-hatred in me, and my self-esteem suffered so much because of that. And I it took a very very long time for me to learn to begin to like myself, because I can't really honestly say that I love myself yet, but I do like myself a little bit more than I used to, because I really used to hate myself like a lot.
How did that start to change for you?
Um, I think for me, it took some time. I think in starting streaming and then becoming a VTuber, I was really able to connect with other people, and I got to know other people. And I feel like in learning, more about other people, I learned more about the things that I liked, and I learned more about myself as a person. And everybody was so nice to me, and I it it was almost like, people would be like, oh Mouse, you're so funny, oh Mouse, we like you. And there were so many like wonderful words from people that I've like met, and in my brain I would always be like, yeah, that's not true, they're just pretending to be nice or whatever. But I don't know, I slowly started to see myself in a different way. with the help of my community, and I'm really thankful for that. And I've met a couple of really wonderful people that are also like streamers and stuff and creators that I've gotten to know privately, and we've become really close friends. And it's like it's just really nice to be able to talk to other people, because I feel like in learning more about them, I learn more about myself. And I don't know, I can't really like pinpoint when I started feeling differently. I just know that slowly, without even realizing it, like I started liking myself a little bit more. I don't think I'm completely there, but I definitely don't hate myself anymore. But I don't love myself. But I'm in the middle. I'm getting there, I think.
Yeah, I think that's actually very, very important. In a weird way, like if you were frustrated with yourself for not
Mm,
loving yourself already, that
mm.
actually like moves you more towards self-hatred.
Yeah,
Does that kind of make sense? And so in a
I
weird
think
way,
so.
like accepting yourself for not being able to love yourself is actually like the way to move towards self-love,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's kind of weird, but that also we can slip into this sort of thing where it's like, well, I'm supposed to love myself. Like, what the hell is wrong with me? I can't love myself.
I think I was just like very. I think it was more like I had years of my life where I was just really mad at myself, and I was just really angry
What were you
at.
mad at yourself for?
It wasn't really like myself. It was like I was mad at my body, because I just felt like it was betraying me, and I just felt like somehow I was betraying myself. And even though it wasn't anything that I can control, it things happen, and it took me a very long time to learn to accept that sometimes shit happens, and there's nothing that I could do to change it, but the way that I react towards the change, that's what I can control.
Where did you
And
learn that?
uh it's just something that I've learned over time, I think, because I just felt like there was just something that I needed to change, because I was very unhappy, and I just didn't want to remain alone and upset. I hate saying angry. I don't like saying the word angry. I don't like using the word angry. I
Oh yeah.
always say upset for
Mm-hmm.
some reason. Anger scares me for some
Yep.
reason. Not sure why.
We we
I'm not sure
we can
why.
understand. I mean, I have a hypothesis there,
Ah!
but we don't have to go there if you don't want to. I'm steering
Yeah,
clear of that.
maybe we won't go there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I've just learned that I could control the way I react to things. And I mean, sometimes I can't control it, but I try my best to. But I don't know. I'm just really weird.
What?
I
What?
think I'm just weird.
Why? Like
I don't
weirder than
know.
normal people?
Yeah, I think so.
Why do you think that? I mean, I respectfully I disagree, but help me
Do you?
understand why. Yeah, oh yeah.
Why?
So, okay, can I think for a second?
Yeah, you can think for a second. I'm a confusing individual. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I don't I um
What's so funny? I like to laugh.
okay. So, and so Mouse, I'm going to just share some thoughts about how
Yeah.
I understand you,
Mm,
which a couple of caveats. The first is we've been talking for about 45 minutes, so there's really no way for me to like truly understand who you are.
mm,
And at the same time, I think that part of the reason that I feel like I understand something about you is because I think that what you share is like actually very authentic and very relatable and in a
Well,
sense quite normal. I think that despite all of the challenges that you've faced, you've sort of like, so you're inspiring. And I think that sometimes what happens is human beings like really, really struggle, right? And they suffer. And as a result of that suffering, they're sort of like tested on the most basic levels. And
yeah.
some people crumble and some people don't. And if we look at it historically, the people who don't, when they open their mouth, they're able to like connect to other people. And so in a strange way, I think that you putting on essentially the mask of a VTuber allows you to be very authentic. Right? So there's
Well,
something like almost like you can truly be yourself because you're kind of hiding so like clearly behind a mask.
yeah.
And so the funny thing is it's actually like in a sense you fix so much of what is wrong with the world, which is that we all put on what we pretend to be our authentic faces, but we're like shady on the inside. Right? So I'm going to walk around with this face and then like, but what I display with what the way that I interact with this face is going to be like fundamentally different from the way that I feel inside. Right? So like I put on an act even though I'm wearing my real skin. And the weird thing is that somehow you've managed to flip it where you put on a fake skin and therefore you can actually be like the closest version of your real self. And so I
Oh,
think what connects with people is that, you know, what you're talking about, being an outsider, feeling like an alien. I'm going to steer clear of the anger, but, you know, like having, as you put it, horrific self-esteem. And then like even this, I mean, there's so many journeys that I've heard you walk, which like you kind of, I mean, we haven't gone into too much, but even this sort of idea of like, I don't want my life to be this way anymore. And why is my life because there's so many places where people get stuck. Like one place where people get stuck is like, why is my life this way? Why me? Why can't my body be different? And in a weird way, I mean,
yeah.
I don't think comparison is very helpful, but you know, a lot of people can be uncomfortable with their body or their body can fail them in some fundamental way. And so people find themselves asking that question. I just don't know that everyone makes it through that. Right? So some people never, like some people develop an eating disorder or like some other, you know, some problem. And then they just kind of like they're sort of stuck there. But somewhere along the way, you kind of like made it through that and you're just sort of like, well, like it doesn't have to have a reason. It just is. And so then the question kind of becomes, well, what do I do about it? And that's where at some point you sort of realize, and this is what's so terrifying for people. And I'm just going to keep going. But like, when you think about, okay, what am I going to do about it? What most people think about the doing is like changing the outside, right? So if I feel lonely, what am I going to do about it? Like I'm going to go get in shape and I'm going to make more money. And then I'm going to like, you know, take all these classes so I know how to make small talk. And then like, I'm going to become like this awesome external human being. I'm going to fix all the problems on the outside so that I can connect with other people. The weird thing is that in a weird way, like that's not an option for you, right? Like you can't fix fundamentally like the body that you've been given.
Yeah.
And so in a weird way, I think that you've actually gone like internally. And so we hear a lot about these journeys where you kind of talk about, you know, being really upset with yourself, like learning to accept yourself and then sort of saying there is no answer, there is no reason, but I'm tired of being lonely and I'm tired of like being upset with myself and something has to change. And you discovered that you can't, you know, because life is like, in a weird way, I don't want to, I was about to use the word lucky, but that's not really the right word. You know, in a weird way, like there's external change and fixing things on the outside was not an option for you, right?
Oh,
And so
yeah.
the only place you had to look was like internally. And in a sense, I think that's actually like really, really useful, hopefully, for people to understand is because what I see is I see people who try to go fixing things on the outside, fixing things on the outside, fixing things on the outside. I recently, for example, was talking to someone who, you know, was thinking about traveling to India and getting surgery so that they could get their shins lengthened. They felt they were too short and they could get like, they could literally like, there are surgeons in India that will break apart your bones, insert rods and make you like 3 inches or 4 inches taller.
Yeah, that's a year recovery. That's rough.
That's a year. I mean, some people don't recover at all. Like some
That's
people have lifelong pain from that kind of
oh
surgery and
man.
debilitation and stuff like that. But it sounds like you're knowledgeable about it. Just,
Oh, I know a lot of things.
oh yeah, I can see that because you have infinite time, right? You have nowhere to go. But
Yeah, I've experienced a lot of medical things, and I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've it's so strange because like through the medical system, I've met a lot of inspiring, interesting people, and it, it's didn't really like think about it as connections until now, you know.
what do you mean by that? What do you mean by connections?
Because when you're in the moment of going through the motions of like being sick and you're in like a hospital, like I've had stays where it's like sometimes I'll be in, there have been times where I've been in for like 5 months or 6 months or for quite some time, very ill. You don't really think about the people that you meet on the inside at the time. It's now that I reflect upon the people that I met in my time there because I spent so much time there and I had such a desire to get out of it that I just didn't really like think about
Hmm.
the people that were there.
Yeah.
And now is when I'm thinking about the people that I met and thinking about, oh yeah, I remember meeting so and so. They were on the same floor as me and they were going through this. And I remember they always used to act a certain way or say this to me and it isn't until now that I think, man, I was making connections back then too. I just didn't see them as connections because to me people I would meet in the hospital was such a, like a final thing to me. I didn't really think about that. It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense. The hospital is just a separate universe,
Yeah,
right?
it was, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
enter a place where time and relationships, like, I mean, I sort of know this from, I mean, a little bit from the patient side, but more from the doctor side, that you form really powerful connections, but they're like in this artificial world.
Mm,
And I still remember patients that, I'd grown very, very close to and just learned so much from that had such a profound impact on me becoming the person that I am today. And I've like, you'll see them every day for a month and then you'll never see them again. Like I haven't seen them in a
yeah,
decade. So it's kind of weird.
it's like a parallel universe.
Yeah. But I think it's so interesting to hear, your experience of like being an outsider. I'm kind of curious. Do you feel like an outsider now?
There are times that I do. It's strange because for the most part, I don't feel that way, but I do at the same time. But it's not as bad as I don't necessarily see it as a bad thing like I used to feel back then. Like I'm very much aware that I'm not like other people, but I also feel differently. It's so hard to explain to me because I have moments where it's like, oh, I'll be talking to another streamer, or I'll talk to a friend of mine, and they'll talk about taking a trip and doing certain things, and those are just some things that I just might never be able to do, and I'm very much aware that there are things that I might not ever be able to do, but that's okay because I'm doing other things, and it's strange because it's like I feel different, but I don't necessarily feel like an outsider. It's weird.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I wonder if this is where sometimes what I'm sort of hearing is that you may still actually kind of understand and in a weird way feel like you're an outsider, but it doesn't cause you suffering anymore.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I do have my moments sometimes because as I get closer to people, I've met so many great friends streaming, and I have a desire to see them, and I have a desire to, recently, like some of my friends went on a trip, and I was like, man, I really wish I could have been there, and it makes me sad for a moment, but it, they're so nice to me, and they accommodate me, and we'll FaceTime and we'll do different things. So it's just really nice to see that, they care and they understand that I am this way and they accept me for this way. And I'm living my life a little differently, but I'm a human.
Yeah, I mean, or very
Yeah.
differently, but you know, yeah. Any
Yeah.
questions for me? Anything that you, in particular, that we've talked about that you want to talk about more, or
I don't even know. My brain is all over the place. It's interesting. I don't really get to talk like this much.
what does like this mean?
About my feelings and my thoughts and my life. I don't really dive into it too much. I've only recently started talking about my illness on stream, cause not just because I want people to see me normally, but also because of the shame thing. But it's like I just I'm also very much aware that when sometimes you just can't talk about these things because they're very heavy and it's difficult to bring them up and it's difficult to talk about on stream, and people come to watch sometimes because they want to escape and they want to have a good time and not necessarily listen to me talk about stuff like this.
Yeah, certainly. The thing that made me laugh a little bit is it's difficult to bring up. It's like,
Yeah,
hey, how are y'all doing today? Well, I'm filled with an internal existential crisis about why my body fails me at so many levels and I'm
yeah,
not able to have a normal human life. How are you
yeah.
today?
Like, hey guys, I had like a horrific infection and I lost my voice for a year and that's why I sound funny. And I'm currently anxious about my life every day and in a panic. So how are you doing?
Yeah, right? And I think that kind of goes back to, but I think that goes back to the mask that we put on, right?
Yeah.
So we ask each other all the time, like when we're moving around in our what is it, flesh tuber? When
Yeah,
I'm
I'm a flesh tuber.
when I'm a flesh tuber, and I don't even know if the tube. So if I'm just interacting with someone at a grocery store, am I a flesh tuber then, or am I just a
You're in your flesh prison.
flesh prison? So
Yes.
when I'm in my prison of the flesh, which is a I don't even know what to think about that, but because we don't share who we are, right? Like when we are
No.
struggling,
Mm.
or if we aren't sure about what we're doing in life and stuff like that, people ask you, how are you? And what you sort of say is like, oh, I'm good, how are you?
Yeah.
And so it kind of makes sense. And that's where, like, at this point, I'm kind of wondering about a couple of things, Mouse. Like,
Yeah.
I have other questions, and I also have kind of other, yeah. Is there something in particular that you want to talk about more, or anything that I could help you with?
I don't know. You can ask me anything you like. If I don't feel comfortable, I just won't say anything.
Okay. Um, so let me offer like a couple of different options and
Okay.
let me know what, if anything, if you want to talk about the stuff. So let me just think for a second. So the first thing that I've kind of been steering clear of is anger, but I think
Uh-oh.
anger is very, very important. It doesn't have to be important now. The other thing that I'm kind of curious about is, so sometimes when I talk to people on stream, what I find I want to do more than anything else is hug them at some point in my life. Like I feel like that's really what's missing from stream, is like I just want to give people a hug. And
Aw.
I also remember, like, even as when I was like a psychiatrist, we're taught. I mean, I guess I'm still a psychiatrist, but when I was like doing a lot of clinical practice, we're sort of trained that we're not supposed to like touch our patients, and
Oh.
that sort of unspoken rule is good and is there for a reason. But I spent some time talking to my supervisors and stuff about it, and I think that like I found a way to respectfully talk about giving hugs and sort of like hugs or handshakes or whatever. And now, after having like sort of a calm conversation with a patient, we may decide like hugging or not hugging. And so I'm a little bit. I find myself being very having an internal sense of wanting to know what you quote unquote really look like, wanting to give you a hug. And I'm not saying that we need to talk about that, but it's just something that I'm I wonder just something about this bear. Like, so on the one hand, you're authentic, and I think you're very, very honest and you share your experiences very,
Mm,
very authentically. And I think that's actually what allows people to connect with you. I think that's what allows you to make friends. You feel connected. You don't, I'm getting the sense that you don't feel quite as lonely as you used to. Is that fair to
no.
say?
Yeah, yeah, I do feel it from time to time, but not so much anymore, and it's nice.
Yeah. So I'm just a little bit curious about, that connection between sort of like on the one hand, it's very authentic and even in a sense more authentic than you can get with two people who are in flesh prisons, because you've almost like leaned into this idea of like, this is a mask that I'm going to put on and we're all going to kind of do that. And paradoxically, when you sort of put that on is like when you get to be the most yourself,
Yeah.
right? So I
Hmm.
think we could talk a little bit more about that. We could talk about anger. I think there's also like questions that we haven't really talked about. You mentioned that your family is very Catholic,
Yeah.
and we sort of, you kind of mentioned a little bit about how you make sense of what happened to you, but I didn't hear anything about God or the will of God in there. So I'm a little bit curious about, from a spiritual perspective or religious perspective, how you've come to understand your life.
Mm.
And if you're comfortable talking about any of that, but
Oh, I don't mind. I don't mind talking about religion. It's just something that I've always felt like it's a very personal thing.
mhm.
Uh I am the type of person where it's like whatever you choose to believe in, that's up to you. Uh Everything is valid. Uh Maybe that's me being weird, but I just think uh I don't know. You would think that a person in my position would be very anti-God. Uh, However, I believe that there is something out there. I don't know what it is. Uh, there has to be something because I'm still here, and that's very strange.
So why would someone think that someone in your position would be anti-God?
I get a lot of comments. I've gotten a lot of comments in the past from people like that have told me, "Man, if I would have gone through all the things that you've been through, I would never like what the it's a lot of like and I've met a lot of people with my condition or something similar to my condition, and they're very different. They think very differently than I do.
How do
But
they think differently from the way you do?
I've had a couple that they are um very anti anything and very upset, very angry. Uh and it's normal when you go through these things. I feel like it's very normal to feel that way. It's very normal to be upset. And it's very normal to start questioning existence and to start being like, what the F? What the F? Higher power? What's happening? Well,
Yeah.
or
So,
say, I don't believe in you at all. So, but that's, I don't like judge anybody because of that. And everybody's able to think whatever they want. But I just think for me, there has to be something out there because I'm still here. And that's really strange.
help me understand that a little bit.
I guess. I don't know. Because it's
No, I
like,
mean, I think you feel pretty strongly about it. Why?
yeah, I do. I respect my parents and their beliefs and stuff
Sure.
like that, and uh, but I am. I just feel like there are a lot of odds stacked against me. There have always been a lot of odds stacked against me. I've always had a life where it's like my life has always been in like this strange limbo place where it's like, well, something really bad is gonna happen to her, supposed to happen, or I'll have like a doctor tell me, well, this is the trajectory of your life, and this
And
is
what would they say? Do you mind
basically
if I ask? I mean, you don't have to share
uh
that if it's uncomfortable, but uh,
mm, a lot of stuff about uh mm, I would get a lot of talks, uh a lot of we just want you to be comfortable talks. And
oh,
yeah, that's that's
we
I
just
feel
want you.
like that's
So
all you have
how
to
did you
say.
understand that when they would say something like that?
Um well,
And how old were you
I
when they started telling you that?
fairly young when it started happening. Very young. And it was very frustrating for me because when I would start hearing that, I feel like that was when my parents stopped having expectations for me, and that really bothered me a lot. It was more like, we just want you to be happy. We just want you to be okay. They weren't they used to be very like growing up my parents were pretty strict with me with like grades and stuff and like school. But the second I started getting the we just want you to be comfortable talks, that's when they were like, it's okay, it's fine, it's fine. Everything was always like, it's fine, it's gonna be okay. You don't owe them anything. You don't have to do anything. You're not, nobody's judging you. Like it was just a lot of like, it's okay because something, you know, because of
Yeah, how
bad
did you
stuff.
like? What did that do to you, dude?
It just made me feel very sad. Uh, because my family is very uh into like achievements, and to just have that taken away from me really upset me, and it made
But
me feel very sad.
what exactly was taken away from you? The possibility of achievement or the expectation that you should achieve?
Expectation, yeah, expectation. The desire to want me to achieve things or to have goals. For a long time in my life, I just felt like I wasn't allowed to have any goals or any
Sounds like your
hopes.
parents gave up hope.
It's strange because in a way they didn't, but then in other ways they did. It was more like they were searching so hard to help me, but it just got to a point where in in them trying to search, they kind of just got discouraged, and it was just it was just a lot of sad stuff.
Yeah. So, Mouse, I'm gonna. Is it okay if I kind of challenge you a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that there's like I'm detecting sort of like a absence of emotion in particular directions. So
Yeah.
and at the same time I want to like respect some of your boundaries. So if it's okay with you, instead of asking you questions about it, like I'll share some thoughts or hypotheticals. What do you think about that?
Okay.
Or do you not want to touch it
Sure.
with a 10-foot pole?
No, you can if you
So
like. If I feel comfortable, I'll let you know.
okay, thank you. So here's the first thing. Like I didn't realize until just this moment how devastating, and that's the word like when you said my parents stopped, like when they're like, "Oh, we just want you to be comfortable." Like the first thought is like that's not sad. That's like devastating. Like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god." Like to have no for your parents to like be focused on grades and stuff and then all of a sudden be like, "It's okay. It's okay, darling. You don't have to worry about school." Like that's not sad. That's like terrifying. Like what the
Yeah.
hell is going on here? Like what's like I can't imagine what it's actually like for, a kid who's growing up with these expectations to suddenly like have those expectations taken off the table. And that to me sounds like the most terrifying prognosis ever.
Yeah. It was a lot. Uh, I pretty much had to basically. I it's I was having this conversation with somebody a couple nights ago where I was like, I felt like my whole life I just had to work 10 times more than the average person because I had to do it for myself because nobody else was expecting anything out of me. And I
Yeah.
felt like if I just
D-
sit there and accept if I just sit there and accept being comfortable, I will never do anything and I am going to die. And I didn't want that. And I said no. And I started trying really, really hard. Uh, I tried too hard where I would get in trouble for it and I would get very ill.
What do you
But
mean by that?
uh well I eventually had to like drop out of school, but I was supposed to leave school sooner, but I didn't because I wanted to try to finish and I tried to force myself to finish school,
Mm,
and it got to the point where my body was just like, you cannot be here, you cannot be in school, it
mm.
is it's bad, you need to stop. And I was very angry for a long time that I couldn't finish school. uh it really hurt me. It was something that I really wanted to do. But uh I ended up worsening my condition because I was forcing myself to try to finish.
Hmm.
Uh and you know, after that I kind of like went through a period where I was just I was just like, you know what? I I don't care anymore. But then in saying I don't care, I started realizing I do care, and I was like, well, I'm gonna try to see if I could somehow do something to get out of this. And it seemed hopeless for a while because my health got worse and things got worse for me. But I had like a moment of kind of like rest when I found streaming, and I can say with certainty, streaming and VTubing literally saved my life. It really did. I don't think I would be here if it wasn't for that.
And how did streaming save your life?
It gave me something to work towards. Because I just felt like my whole life I had doors being shut left and right. Everything was always being taken away from me. Everything was always, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do this because this is gonna happen if you do this, and you can't do that. And it was just like, when I found streaming, it was like, I'm gonna do this for myself and I'm gonna see what I can do. And I didn't even go into it thinking that I was going to grow a audience. I didn't think about that. I
Hmm.
just wanted to make some friends. I just wanted to just do something with my life because at the time, when I first started streaming, I was very ill, and I had gone through a moment in time where I was completely bedridden for a, a while, and it just took out took a lot from me. It took a lot out of me, and I slowly, with streaming, which I started a few years ago, uh, and my health improving, I'm finally able to walk a little bit and get out of bed and do things that I wasn't able to do before, like, take a shower by myself and self care by myself. And now I can do those things now. And it was a very difficult journey, and I'm still on it. And I don't think I'll ever be a normal, perfect human that can do whatever. But I want to return to my normalcy.
Yeah.
Something that I can be happy with. And I think I'm getting there slowly, but it's been very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, Mouse, I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but I find myself almost like, I think if you ever became a completely normal human, I think a big part of what you give to the rest of the world would be sort of taken away, because I think what is most kind of powerful about your story, at least to me, is that you don't have to be normal to find a path.
It's
And
true.
and it's sort of this idea that, like, you don't, let go of normal completely. And what I've sort of really appreciated about your journey is you kind of have like leaned into what the hand that life has dealt you. You know, and by leaning into the hand that life deals you, like paradoxically, the whole problem is that we try so hard to adhere to a standard, and that actually that doesn't that doesn't work. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
And you know, paradoxically, what works is like in a sense abandoning that standard and just trying to figure out, okay, like what am I going to do for myself? And just going back to this whole thing about no expectations, like, you know, when I've worked with kids that have really bad behavioral problems, like these are kids that have been like, you know, juvenile, you know, they've been in juvie jail like 3 times by the age of 15, using drugs and all this other kinds of stuff. What I tend to find is the most common element in their life is at some point people stopped expecting anything out of them. So adults were just sort of like, this kid is going nowhere, and there's no point in expecting this child to step up and accomplish anything. And then what
Yeah.
happens is children strive to meet expectations, and when we give up hope on a kid, they're going to live up to that expectation as well and start living a life that becomes completely hopeless. Because that's what we expect of them. And and it's devastating. And like paradoxically, this is why like sometimes, you know, when I work with kids like that, what I'll actually try to do is give them leadership roles. And you'll be amazed at how effective that is at getting their behavior in line. Like we sort of think about these people as being incapable, but the more responsibility you give them, like it's amazing how much they step up. But someone has to believe that they can do it.
Yeah. You know, I wish, I wish my parents would have been more, uh, they were always pretty, like, hard on me, but it was just when things just started getting very, when things got very difficult, it was more about just me being comfortable, and I know that they love me, and I know that they it's just it's so difficult. I feel for them. I love my parents so much because it's not easy to be a caretaker,
Mm-hmm.
and uh you know, especially having to be a caretaker for so long to somebody who's been so ill. It's very hard, and my parents are very old fashioned, and they don't do not believe in mental health uh, help because they're very old, and they're from the old world. So there's a lot of they have a lot of emotions that they have not dealt with pertaining to our family situation and me. And you know, I'm just really I'm happy that now I feel more stable in my life, that I could be a support system for them because they've been there for me for so long, and I just want them to be comfortable. And it's weird because now I'm the one saying I just want them to be comfortable and I just want them to be happy, and I know that that's what they were saying to me.
What's weird
And
about that?
I don't know. It's so strange. It's like our roles have been reversed, and it's something that we never expected. And I never expected it to happen, and they never expected it to happen. It's funny because the other day, my mom, my parents are, you know, they're getting older, and their health is not great, and it's really affecting me emotionally because I just remember seeing them young and being so strong and helping me, and now they are very old, and uh it's like my mom still kind of wants to take care of me, but she's realizing that I'm a little bit more independent now, and I'm actually like getting better, so she doesn't really know what to do because my mom has been like a professional mother for so long.
Yeah.
She's, you know, she's always had to take care of me. So now that I'm, you know, it's so strange that like she's like, I can't believe like you essentially you have a job now and you're working and you're making money, and it's just things that they just never expected to see out of me, that they're just very shocked, but also they don't really know how to deal with it, and sometimes, they just don't know what to do.
Yeah. What about you? Do you know what to do?
I don't even know what to do. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I just want I you know, I'm just very thankful for everything that they've done for me, and I just want to take care of them, and I want to be there for them and love them like they loved me, even though, we went through a lot of hard times, you know?
Yeah. So let me think about this for a second. Okay. Can I share some thoughts?
Yeah.
So the first is like, you're going to take care, like, so in families in general,
Mm.
so I'm going to just talk about families in general. Okay. We don't need to go too much into detail about your family and stuff. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
okay.
So in general, like, what we do is what we're taught or what we're shown, really, more so than taught. And so I think that, like, in your family, what I'm hearing is that there were very clear roles. There was like a very lopsided, like, caretaker and care receiver,
Yeah.
right? And so this is a challenge for basically all families and all parents. But at some point, as your kids grow up, like, sometimes people will just flip, and the person who used to take care of people are now being taken care of. But a lot of times what really has to happen in healthy relationships is we have to sort of almost become like colleagues or at the same level as our parents, where there isn't really like and that just may be foreign because for such a long time you've needed to be taken care of. And is it beautifully said, by the way, that your mom is a professional mother, right? Like, so she needed to be
Yeah.
like a level 100 mother. Like, you couldn't be a level 25 mother. Like, you got to leave the noob zone and start being like, serious, like end game mom content kind of stuff. I don't even know what that is, but it feels right. Right?
She's been at it for a long time. It's the
Yeah.
only thing she ever knows.
She's been
It's
grinding, right? She's been like,
it's yeah, it's adorable, and I love her for it, and it's also very frustrating
yeah.
because
And
I want her to relax, and I just want her to enjoy life, but she's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. What do I do? How do I take care of you? And I'm like, you don't have to. You
yeah,
don't
so
have to do it much anymore.
you're right. And so it's confusing because for her, it's like she's been doing this for so long, she doesn't know how to do anything else,
Yeah,
you
she
know?
doesn't.
And so I think it's like, I'm not surprised that you just want them to be comfortable because like when they're people that you love, so when your parents loved you, I mean, they still do obviously, but when you were growing up, they demonstrated like you kind of like in your family dynamic, what I'm sort of hearing is that taking care of someone and loving them go hand in hand, right?
Yeah,
That's how you demonstrate your love is by taking care of them. And so now it's kind of confusing because if you don't need to be taken care of, it's like, how does mom show you that she loves you? And furthermore, how do you show your parents that you love them without like taking care of them? Because that's what you do. And if they're getting older, that's what you sort of should do and stuff if you believe in that kind of thing, which it sounds like you do,
yeah,
and that's great.
I do.
I think the other thing that we got to be a little bit careful about, I think, and I'm just going to mention this, we don't have to go into it, but I think it's just in terms of your journey, Mouse, I think that like developing a healthy relationship with anger is probably very important going forward.
Yeah,
And so I don't want to ask you too many questions about it, but in terms of feeling like, we're here to educate and we're here to help, I'd love to share just a couple of general principles about anger. Is that okay?
yeah,
So the first is that it's clear to me that you love your parents. It's clear to me that you're grateful for what your parents have given you. Fair?
yes,
So when we love people and we're grateful for what they've given us, sometimes it can be very confusing to be angry with them. Does that make sense?
yes,
And so it can feel, especially if we have like problems with low self-esteem or feeling guilty, anger is the hardest thing to sit with. Because if you feel angry with your parents, and I'm just talking hypothetically here, this is more general education for everyone, okay? So if we like think about it, like if I feel like I've got, if I have like So here you are, and we're hypothesizing here because we're not going to actually ask you, but here you are growing up, you see what impact your health is having on your parents. You recognize that, like, oh, it's my responsibility to get better, and I'm putting them through all this kind of stuff, and why can't I get better? Why can't I be healthy? And so you start to feel guilty for not being healthy. And then if you feel guilty, like, getting angry with them doesn't work, right? You're not going to, like, let yourself do that. So oftentimes what we see in these kinds of, like, caregiver, care receiver relationships is that anger is, like, absent from this kind of relationship. Similarly, your parents aren't allowed to be angry with you, and you're not allowed to be angry with them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because they
It
surely, like,
does.
oh, poor Mouse is, like, so sick, like, like, we can't be angry with her. Like, that's not fair. But like, this is where we're going to hypothesize a little bit, but let's be clear. Like, if you're a kid, you're going to do some things that piss your parents off. And if
That's
they're
true.
parents, they're going to do some things that piss you off. Like, that's part of the relationship, right?
Yep.
But the problem is that when we have these kind of caregiver, care receiver relationships, we don't allow ourselves to be angry with it just because that feels bad, right? It's like what kind of asshole parent am I going to be like, here my kid is with this autoimmune deficiency and I'm getting pissed at them for not cleaning up their toys, right? Like, oh, I should be, like, more forgiving and stuff. And so in a weird way, I think over time, I think you're going to get there on your own. I don't think you really need any help with this, and we don't need to force this or anything like that. But I just want to say, I think it's okay for you to, just as you've come to accept sadness, you've come to accept, guilt, you've come to accept, like, some self-esteem problems and stuff like that. Like, I think you own that really well. I think it's okay for you and anyone else out there to also own anger. Like, anger doesn't mean an absence of love. Anger doesn't mean, like, there can be anger in there, and there's a healthy way to sort of have it there. And the first is to, like, not blame yourself for being angry or your parents to be angry with you and stuff like that. Like, I think anger is like, it's okay. Like, it doesn't make you a bad person. This is, I guess, what I mean to say, and this is what I really want to share with you is I don't think you're a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad person if you're angry with yourself, if you're angry with your friends, if you're angry with your parents. Like, it doesn't make you a bad person. It's just part of the experience of life. Like, what do you think about
Yeah.
that?
I think it's so hard for me to accept uh anger. I don't know. I have such an aversion to it. Like, it's funny because it's like I could be on my stream and I could, like, fake rage. It's not even fake rage. It's like I'm mad at a game, but, like, to be angry with myself or to be angry towards another human, it really bothers me, and it makes me feel kind of sick inside, and it scares me. It's an emotion that really terrifies me for some reason. And I don't really know why, but it is. And it's why most of the time whenever I express that I'm unhappy with something, I usually say, "Oh, I'm upset." I hate saying I'm angry. I hate expressing anger. It just doesn't feel right to me. But I'm trying to learn that it's normal, and I'm trying to normalize it in my life, but
Well,
it's difficult.
yeah. So, Mouse, this is where I want you to please think about the question that I'm going to ask you for about 5 to 6 seconds before you answer. So, first of all, do you want to talk about this at all? Secondly, do you want to talk about this in a more personal way? And thirdly, do you want to talk about it in a more general way?
We could talk about it in a general way.
Perfect. Okay, so let's try to understand this. Is it okay if I'm going to ask you a couple,
Mm,
like, more academic questions? So I'm going to put on my professor hat as Dr. K. Is that okay?
yeah.
So it's not going to be personal. So what do you think it is that makes people, so you mentioned that you sometimes get really uncomfortable around anger and you're almost scared of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What makes people uncomfortable with emotions or scared of emotions?
I'm not really sure.
So I think that's because, let's step out of your head for a second. So, like, let's say that I'm scared of love. Like, oh my God, I met this person at work and, like, they make me feel this way. I'm so frightened. I'm scared of love. Why do you think that is?
Oh, I don't know, because they don't want to. I don't know.
Okay. So,
don't know.
so sorry, I may have set you up to fail there, but so this is where I think the simplest reason that people are afraid of things is because they're just like inexperienced with them,
Yeah.
right? So like that's the number one reason. So even if you think about, I remember when I was spending some time with some family in India many years ago, and like people in India, that my family members were like quite racist towards particular ethnicities, and then I realized after talking to them that the reason that they have these beliefs is just because they have no experience with like people of these ethnicities. Like in India, you've got some white people, but basically everyone is like Indian,
Mm.
and so I think there's just a lack of like experience or familiarity that makes you scared. And I can imagine also that if you kind of think about it, like in your household kind of growing up, that people who tend to be uncomfortable with anger grow up in places where we're not like taught how to deal with it. So we're taught how to deal with sadness. There are displays of sadness, things like that. But, I think it's like okay for you to feel afraid. In general, it's okay for people to be afraid of anger for a couple reasons. One is because anger oftentimes causes us to lose control. And sadness and stuff does as well. It just sounds like you're kind of like your sadness resistance is pretty high, you know?
Oh. I mean, it's funny because like when I told people that I was gonna come on here, they're like, "Oh, you're gonna cry so hard. You're gonna cry so much," and I'm a very strange person because I can be pretty emotional. But when it just depends on the situation, and sometimes when I talk about reflecting upon my life and reflecting upon experiences, sometimes I do this thing because I okay, I'm gonna expose myself for a second. Yes, I'm emotional, and I am aware that I can be emotional. Uh, of course, I got it from my parents. But um, I think there was a moment in my life where I would cry all the time. I remember there was a long period of my life where I spent every day of my life crying, and I didn't like that period of my life. And then I went through a period of my life where I had no emotion at all. After all that, it was almost as if my brain was trying to protect me
Yeah, like a
because I
protective numbness.
yeah, I couldn't take any more sadness and I couldn't take any more emotion. I felt like I was it was gonna destroy me. So I went a period of my life without feeling anything. I was like a zombie. And I slowly started gaining myself again through streaming, and I've cried on stream multiple times. But sometimes there's moments where it's like, especially if I feel like I'm talking about something particularly deep about myself and about my life, it's almost as if I go out of my body and I like talk about it as if I'm not in it, and I'm like observing, and sometimes it's me talking, but it doesn't necessarily, like, I can't control what I'm saying because I'm at a distance where it's like I'm trying so hard to control my emotions so that I don't cry, that I'm not controlling what I'm saying, and I don't know if that makes sense. That probably doesn't.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
no, I think it makes a lot of sense.
I'm not on autopilot because I am aware, but I sometimes when I talk about things like this, I have this fear that if I start crying, I'm not gonna stop crying. So I don't want to cry,
Yeah, of course.
and I just rather laugh, and
Yep.
then I'll cry later.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. So let's just try to understand that together. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So I think the first thing is that, when we learn that emotions take control of us, we develop systems to not lose control.
Yeah.
And one of those systems almost sounds a little bit of like dissociation. Have you heard that term before?
Yes.
What's your understanding of that term?
When I disassociate, uh, and It's almost as if the way that it was explained to me is I'll face something that's rather traumatic. I have a lot of trauma because of the things that happened in my life, and sometimes I sort of lose myself in my thoughts, and I tend not to focus in order to retreat into myself or out of myself, so that I'm not really present in the moment as much as I should be.
Yeah. So that's where I think so. This is where we know that, for example, like through research of mental health and mental illness and trauma and stuff like that, we know that the dissociation response can be protective in nature,
Mhm.
and it's basically like if the emotions are too much for us to handle, our mind will kind of separate ourselves from it. And I've worked with a fair number of people who even particular moments in time where they really need to dissociate to protect themselves. And generally speaking, it's like a protective mechanism is the way that I think about it. The other really interesting thing, Mouse, is that so when I was training to become a psychiatrist, it was kind of strange because out of all of my colleagues, in a sense, I was the best at being able to understand people's experience with dissociation. So like when we would do like work with patients and stuff, and what I realized is like actually that what they were describing reminded me a lot of meditation. That in
Oh,
meditation, what happens is the awareness separates from the mind. And if we really think about dissociation, it's like you sort of said that you lose control of your mind, right? You're kind of like on autopilot, but it doesn't hurt you anymore. Does that make sense?
yeah, it's strange because like I'm aware of what I'm saying and stuff. I just uh I'm just very aware that at any moment I could cry, and if I do cry, I won't stop crying. So I don't want to cry. So I'm here, but I'm here in a different way. I don't
Yeah.
know if that even makes sense.
No. So I think what happens there is that this is gonna speaking of not making sense. Now it's my turn to not make sense. So we have consciousness and we have mental activity, and those are actually two separate things. So my ability to think and my ability to like observe are actually like two different things because we can observe our
Mm.
thoughts, right? So there's like
Yeah.
there within our mind, there's like a watcher, and then there's or not even within our mind, actually outside of our mind, there's like a watcher. And even if we look at, for example, mental illness, what we tend to find is that the more that you lose yourself in your thoughts, the closer you get to mental illness. So if I'm able to reflect on my thoughts and recognize that my thoughts are not real, they're just thoughts, that's sort of healthy. Does that make sense? Like if I'm feeling
Yeah,
anxious,
kind
like
of.
my mind may think, oh my God, everyone is annoyed that I'm here, but that's not actually true. Does that sort of make sense? But the more
Uh,
that we start believing that, the more that we move towards mental illness. So if we think about someone who has like psychotic delusions, this is a person whose thoughts and reality have no difference whatsoever because they 100% believe they're being possessed by the devil. Then what happens is as we like get healthier, so even like the most severe kind of depression is called a psychotic depression. So that's the point at which like their thoughts become reality. And then like as we get less depressed, we start to separate out. We still have really powerful thoughts, we have powerful emotions, but we're able to acknowledge that our thoughts are like distorted in some way. So then there's separation from like mind and awareness. Does that make sense?
a little bit, yeah, kind
Okay.
of.
If it doesn't make sense, please let me know.
No,
And
it kind of does, yeah.
and then as we get sort of healthier, like we're able to sort of see like, oh, my mind isn't really thinking clearly. So this is where we talk about things like cognitive distortions or cognitive biases. Or sometimes I think the best example is like sometimes you'll have people that after a breakup, they're like, oh my God, the world is ending. I'll never love again. Like this relationship was everything to me. I'm worthless. I'm useless. There's no point in living life. And then 6 months later, they're like, oh my God, that relationship was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I'm so glad I really dodged a bullet there. And so even if you kind of think about it, there's a certain amount of awareness that we don't have when we're kind of like one with our thoughts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of. Okay.
Yeah.
And so my point here is that, you know, when you have these experiences where you kind of like you don't want to lose yourself in your mind, right? So then what happens is you kind of separate out from the mind and you kind of
Mm.
like are able to see it, but then you kind of like retain some control. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
I'm trying.
That's okay. It's kind of weird what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I mean, a lot of what I'm saying, this is kind of a roundabout way of saying, have you practiced meditation before?
Uh, I I never. It's so weird because like I never have. But I do recall sometimes in the past with my parents, like they'll bring like their prayer circle over and they'll do these long prayer sessions where you know I would have to be silent for a long time and they would be around, and I feel like in a way that was like a form of it, kind of. So sometimes I just think about that time when I'm very, very stressed and I just try to quiet myself. But I've never like formally done any sort of meditation. I think I'm kind of like afraid.
What are you afraid of with meditation?
I don't know. I'm just always afraid of like being overwhelmed with my stuff because I feel like uh I've always gotten, people tell me, "Oh, you're so like you know how to like verbalize what you're feeling so well and stuff." But it's like I feel like I only take things. I spent so much in my life being bombarded with garbage and with horrific experiences that I have trauma, and now I don't. I try not to. Oh, I'm sorry. Give me a second. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Uh, I try. I don't know. I try to take things in small amounts because I feel like if I try to work on everything at once, it'll be too overwhelming for me, and it scares me.
Yeah, no, I think that that's something that you should respect. So
Mm.
here's the thing. So I think, Mouse, I think you've, how can I say this? So your internal landscape has like rough patches. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
Yeah.
Right?
No, I am very much aware.
And so what I get the sense of is like in your internal landscape, I'm almost like envisioning like colonizing Mars, where like you've sent like expeditions where you've built these habitats that have greenery and like, you know, like you built places on Mars that you can exist safely and function. But then there's
Yeah.
also like the walls of the city, and like outside is like the Titans, and we don't go there,
Yeah.
right? And and
Yeah.
and so this is the interesting thing. So when I work with people who have a history of trauma, what I'll actually do is be very careful about meditation. Because here's the thing, when we have trauma, what our mind does is it puts up all these walls to keep the Titans out. And what meditation does is bring those walls down.
Yes. And
And
I'm
then
very afraid.
right? So I think that's where there's even specific kinds of meditations that are specifically geared towards people with trauma. But the whole point is like in meditation, we become one with ourselves and like the barriers of the mind get broken down and we like achieve these high levels of consciousness and like transcend the mind and like all this cool stuff, man. But the whole point is like in trauma, our body's like, no, no, no. Or our mind is like, let's put up these walls. Let's keep the Titans at bay. Don't knock the walls down. And so sometimes what I found is I mean, I not so much in my personal practice, but when I work with people who have meditated with other people, what we found is that when you create a vacuum in the mind, the trauma can come up and then you can lose control. So,
Yeah.
so I think it's actually completely healthy in a sense for you to be wary of meditation. I would trust your instincts because your mind is going to be sending you information. And it's like, we're not ready for those Titans. And like, there's an anger Titan out there. But I think over time, the one thing that I did want to share with you is I think when you're ready for it, I think that you will find that you are an adept meditator and that a lot of what you've essentially stumbled through or worked through, at some point, meditation may help you do better,
Well,
but
I
not
would like to.
necessarily not yet if you're not ready. You don't have to
Yeah,
rush it.
I have like a lot of like uh aversions to rushing into stuff like that because it's just a lot,
Yep.
and it's a lot. It's a lot, and I feel like I've slowly been working on things, but it's just very difficult. Because at the same time, as much as I've improved a lot, and I feel like a lot of aspects of my life has improved, I'm still kind of going through it and going through the
Yeah.
motions. So it's like even more stuff, but then I have to like go through the stuff that's happening now and then deal with stuff that happened before, and
Yeah.
it's just like I'm not ready.
So yeah, 100%. So Mouse, if can I give you just one piece of like supporting advice
Yeah.
there? So
Yes.
there's one general thing that I tend to think about in terms of like whether you need to confront your problems or not, right? Because everyone's like, so like many years ago, you were at this point where you're like, I'm tired of being lonely. I'm tired of having no one having expectations about me, and like I'm gonna do something with my life. I'm not content with the way of things, and you started to like make a change in your life, right? With me.
Yeah. Yes.
So when do you need to do that? When do you need to sit down and grapple with yourself and like wrestle with yourself and like send expeditions beyond the wall? Like when do we need to send expeditions beyond the wall? Well, that depends on how things are going on the inside. So if the
Mm.
trajectory of your life is moving in the right direction, you don't need to go sending things beyond the wall. So what I'm hearing from you is that your life, like you're growing as a person. You're like, you know, you've discovered being a VTuber, you've discovered this awesome community, your health is getting a little bit better, you're working at it, you're like making friends, you're feeling less lonely, you're feeling good about yourself, like, you know, learning how to be with your parents in a different way, taking care of them. So the direction that you're moving in is positive, right? Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So if it is, don't mess with it. Don't you don't need to go confronting anger or any of this other stuff. Like, you know, you can just let sleeping dogs lie for now. And if at some point you find that you're unsatisfied with the direction of your life, or if you feel like there's a particular bottleneck, like, so for example, like if you're unable to trust or unable to love or like unable to like, you know, if all this weird anger suppression crap is like causing problems in your relationships or things like that, that's when you need to go send an expedition beyond the wall. But for now, it
Yeah.
sounds like you're, you know, you're on your journey and it's moving in the right direction. So like, I wouldn't rock the boat.
Yeah. I feel like I might have to start having an expedition soon because uh I have realized that due to past trauma and stuff like that, I do, as much as I love making friends, and I've said this on my stream before that I am I am a extrovert that has been forced to live an introvert's life, and
Ooh.
it really like took a toll on me mentally and emotionally. That I think like all those things combined, and the fact that I had to like change my lifestyle and stuff, I have a little bit of an issue with trust when it comes to meeting new people, and it's a little bit of a block, and it's something that in the future I'm not really ready to work on it yet, but I'm meeting people, certain individuals in my life that I really respect them, and I have begun to care about them a lot, and I want to begin to start trusting because I want to be able to uh, I want to be able to share myself more with them and share more about what I've been through in my life and be more open so that they can understand me better and understand why I am the way I am. And I don't think I'm ready quite yet, but I know that I'm gonna have to face it eventually because it's just I'm getting closer to people, and there are just some people that I feel like if I continue to get closer to them, it's harder for me to communicate with them. And I don't really want to have that sort of block when the time comes. You know, I don't even know if this makes sense.
Oh, I think it makes a lot of sense. Do
Ugh,
you want me to tell you what I heard?
what did you hear?
So the first thing is, I was like, it's okay, Mouse. You don't have to confront your anger. You don't need to send expeditions. And you're like, well, actually,
Actually,
maybe we're coming up on the time where we need to send an expedition. Okay,
yeah.
so that's good because that's your internal voice kind of telling you, okay, like maybe we do need to deal with this stuff. But here's what I would really think about, Mouse, is that so if we think about what makes it hard for you to open up and trust people, do you have a sense of that?
Uh, it's hard to explain because there's so many different like reasons. But okay. I think my main reason is this is gonna sound kind of fucked up, but because of the fact that I never had any expectations on me to a certain point, I was also very much aware, uh, and was very much as much as my parents love me so much and they care about me, but they were also very open with sharing with me that being close to people with my condition, me having to live the life that I live, it's very stressful on others and it's very difficult. And that kind of made me have trust issues because uh, they were telling me, they told me, but also it's a conclusion that I came to myself as well, where it's like, it takes a lot to be close to me. It takes a lot to be able to share stuff because I feel like, oh man, this is gonna be difficult to say, and this is
You don't
where I
have to say
probably
it.
might cry. uh, it's just, I just, I have issues where I feel like people won't want to uh, go through the lengths that is required in order to get close to me, and people will leave. And um, I've experienced in the past people that I used to be close to, and when shit gets hard and my life is very uncertain, I've had people stop coming around and stop checking up on me, and it's, I know that it's very emotionally draining and it's a lot of stress and a lot of strain, and it's something in my heart and in my mind that I said I will never force anyone to uh, go through the pain of being my friend. Uh, I would never force that upon anybody because I am aware that it's very stressful and it's a lot. So I, in turn, am afraid of trusting people because I'm just afraid that if I do get close to somebody and I do give them the trust and tell them, hey, so this is what's going on, this is what's wrong with me, this is what I've been through, uh, I'm afraid they're just gonna be like, yikes. No, thank you. I don't know if that means anything, if that makes
Yeah, Mouse,
sense.
I think that means a lot, but and this is going to sound kind of weird. Respectfully, I disagree.
I know. I
Do you
figured you would.
do you know what I disagree with?
What do you disagree with?
I disagree with. So here's the thing. So there you are being considerate, right? Because you're like, oh my God, being friends with Mouse is hard. So I'm not going to hold anyone to that expectation, right? Which is like you being a compassionate person. You're like, well, how can I ask anyone to sign up to deal with me?
I
Right?
could never.
That's got to change, yo.
Oh
You
god.
should absolutely, man. Like, I know you don't have to do it today, but at some point, to be blunt, that's the price that people need to pay for being your friend, and you need to be okay with having people pay that price. Because here's the wild thing, you're worth it,
Oh,
right? Like, it's okay for, like, so just because your life makes other people being friends with you makes other people's lives harder, that's actually okay.
Okay.
Right? You may not be able to let that sink in now, but that's part of life. Like we don't, the people that we're friends with are not people because they just make our life like net positive. Right? That's not what friendship is.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, like part of, and this is where I sort of get it, right? Because you don't want to put anyone through that. But the whole point is that, I get that. But also, like, that's okay. Like, that's something that, don't make the same mistake with people that people made with you, which is like, don't hold them to any expectations. Like, just because you're sick, and we talked about how almost damaging it is for people to like give up hope on what you're capable of. And that's also where, like, if you give up hope on what people are capable of, then you're never going to give them a chance to like show you that you kind of like are worth it,
Oh man.
But it's going to be hard. Don't get me wrong. Like,
God.
it's going to be terrifying.
Oh God. Yeah, I know.
Right? So like, it's going to be hard to like approach someone and be like, yeah, my life is shit right now. It's going to be a very emotionally draining, but you owe me this, bitch. Right?
I had a friend of mine basically be like, "Why not just trust me? It's fine. I'm okay. I can handle it." And I'm like, "I don't know." And they're like, "You need to stop. I'm willing to go through this. I'm okay." And still in my head, I'm just like, "Oh God, they're gonna."
Yeah, so and
not
that's where that person also needs to understand, and both y'all need to understand when they say I can handle it, like they may not be able to. But this is the important thing. Handling it doesn't mean like that shouldn't be the whole point of being friends with someone and like loving someone is that you share with them shit that they can't handle. But like that's okay. Like the prerequisite shouldn't be whether they can handle it or not. The prerequisite should be like you just sharing it. If they can't handle it, like that's okay. Like that's just what life is, right? You're not always able to handle everything.
Yeah.
I know it's kind of weird, but you'll get there.
I want to get there eventually.
Yeah,
It's
you'll
been a
get there.
long
Just go
journey.
slow. Don't send everyone beyond the wall. It's dangerous out there.
Yeah, no.
You'll get eaten by the Titans, dude.
No.
They'll just have their like manic grins while they stuff you into their mouth and then just gobble you up, But I think at some point, like, I get that it's terrifying. The other thing that I just like to share with you is I wonder how much of it's, you've mentioned that you've lost control in the past. And so I wonder how much of it's hard for you to trust other people actually because you're afraid that like if you cross a particular line with them, you'll lose control. And then you'll be subjecting them to all of the crap. And you don't want to do that to them.
No.
Which is where I say gently, fuck them. Let them have it.
It's just like this thing because it's like my whole life I felt like a burden to my family that like I feel like I'm a burden to people.
Yeah.
To anyone involved.
So go for it. That's the whole point of being friends with someone.
Oh God.
Right? Like
no.
like friendship, the whole point of friendship is that it's not like it's not like a net positive interaction in that way. Like that's not friendship is about go for it. It's okay. I mean, I know it doesn't feel that way, but anyway, friendship is not about people like just making your life better in terms of like money and happiness and stuff like that. The whole point is that you're going to be a burden to people, and like that's okay, and like people sign up for that, and that's what you do as someone's friend, right? Like think about like the reverse position, and then I'll stop talking. But if someone was a burden to you, like how would you be like, oh man, like you're such a burden to me, like I'm not going to see you anymore.
I could never.
Absolutely. And that's where like feeling loved and feeling accepted, Mouse, you got to give people the chance. And here's the thing. If all you ever do, so I was working with someone who was very wealthy. And like the problem is that when you're very wealthy, like you don't know if people are friends with you because of your wealth or because of like you, right? Make sense?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, if all you ever give your friends is just like the positive version of you and you never burden them, how are you ever going to know like who they accept?
That's true.
Right? So you got to give them the scuffed version. And then like
Oh God.
and then like that's when you're really going to feel love, because like when you're scuffed and there are people like, yeah, I'll take it anyway.
Yeah, I'm really scuffed.
Right? But if all you give people is polish, like you're never going to give them a chance to accept you.
Oh God.
Yeah, I get that you're terrified, which is fine. Like you don't need to force yourself into it. I'm just letting you know for when that day comes, like, you know, we're all scuffed.
That's true.
Yes, sorry.
Oh my God, I'm internally like freaking out now.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay. It's okay. This is good.
No, I mean, I mean, I'm not really
That's
sorry,
good.
but I should feel sorry. I felt like the right thing to say.
No, it's good. It's good.
I'm excited for you personally. Like I don't feel regret. Honestly, I feel excited. I feel hopeful. I feel like somewhere along the way, I think what you really have to give is different from what you think you have to give, which obviously makes me a dumbass because you know better your life than I do. But I think part of what you've demonstrated through what you've done as a VTuber is that when you authentically share a piece of yourself that is a little bit scuffed, is a little bit messed up, that's actually what causes people to respond to you, right? Because so many of your experiences about being an outsider, you didn't show up and start saying like, oh my God, I'm such an awesome person and I have so many friends. No, it's like, I'm an outsider, I'm sick, I can't live a regular life. You know, sucks to be me. I'm gonna do the best that I can, but I can't make any promises that it's gonna be perfect. And that's interestingly enough, what's so damn authentic and like what is so damn engaging for people.
Oh, thank you. I say that every day when I wake up. I just say I just want to do my best. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do. I want to do my
And
best.
that's really what you owe people. You don't owe people a good job. What you owe people is doing your best. And I really hope for you that at some point in the future, you're able to have friends who can accept you for doing your best instead of doing a good job.
They already do. It's just I have to accept that they do.
Yeah, that's on you, dude. It's not on them.
I have wonderful friends now that they're just so. I always get surprised at the kindness that I receive because I just don't expect people
Yeah.
to be kind, and I don't expect people to be so nice to me. And like even so I belong to a company called Vishojo. It's a VTuber company with other girls, and even CEO who's our boss, he's so nice to me, and it just blows my mind that people are so nice, and even though they know me and they learn about me, that they're still so kind to me, and they're just willing to help me, and they just want to be my friend, and it blows my mind that anybody would ever want that uh with me, because I just I never felt like I was good enough or worthy enough to have friends and to have a life, and I'm just still trying to come to grips with that right now. It's hard. I feel like I'm coming to terms with it now, but it's just I just never expected any of this to happen. So it's you
Yeah.
got me. Fuck.
No. I'm not. I didn't do anything.
Oh no.
I lacked compassion and pushed you into places.
No,
I
it's
didn't do
okay.
anything. This is you, dude.
I know.
Can't blame me for this. Not my fault.
Oh god. Oh no. Yeah. So that all that I just said.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it makes sense. And that's just where, I think it's going to be confusing for a while, but that's like,
Mm.
I think, yeah, I think you just said it well. I have nothing to say. I got nothing. It's just,
Oh,
it's going to take a little time for you to really. So here's what I will say. Okay. So you know how earlier, like when life was hard and like you were like, oh my God, like I can't live regular life, and you had to like accept that.
yeah,
Accepting doom in your life is way easier than like accepting that you deserve love.
it's true.
Accepting that you deserve nothing in life and letting go of all your expectations is the easy part.
It's true.
Accepting that you deserve love, despite the fact that your life may not amount to anything, is like so much harder. So I think this is just, you're just at the end of Elden Ring now. This is just the last boss. So it's going to be tough. You're going to wipe
Finally.
like over and over and over again. And that's just at some point you just got to get good. You know what I'm saying?
Oh God, yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like I've been trying to get good my whole life.
Yeah, dude. I hear you. And that's just life.
It's been rough.
You can't mimic tear your way through everything.
No, I wish I could.
Yeah, no, it's
Oh God. Oh God. Oh. Ah. Ah.
yeah, I wish that were the case, but it isn't,
Oh, I wish. I always say stuff like that. I always say, man, I wish I could. If only I could have been this or that or this or that. But it's like, I'm not. I'm this,
Yep. And this is
and that's
well,
okay.
absolutely, right?
Ah. Oh goodness. I'm not crying.
I'm not crying either. Look at my face. I think
I'm not
if
crying.
you're crying a little bit, that's okay. But
Yeah.
it's a good.
you know,
It's okay. You got
yeah,
this.
it's good. It's good.
You
It's
gotta
good.
wipe a few more times. That's all.
Yeah.
You'll get
and
it.
it's just,
You'll get there.
It's just a little dehydration. It's okay.
Well,
Oh God.
I think are we done? I
I don't know.
don't know. I feel like this is the end. There's no. I don't know.
Oh dear.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
I feel like this is where I don't think we can push past this. Maybe is what I mean to say.
Yeah, I feel like I feel very exposed right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we have to because we don't want to keep going. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
so I think we're.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Did we
I can't believe I
overstep?
said that. No,
Okay.
no, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Because
Not at
that
all.
would that's
No,
not good. But
not at all. Of course, there's just things that I just can't say.
yeah,
But
you're,
but
yeah.
yeah,
I we're good. We're good.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, any last kind of thoughts or comments?
I laugh a lot when I'm very nervous,
I
and I'm very laughable. I'm a laughable person. I'm a laugh person.
yeah. That's totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I just
I
want to
laugh
say,
so I won't cry.
Mouse, thank you so much for coming on today. Thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing your story. I think
thank you.
if I can just offer like some simple closing thoughts, I think it's like
Mm,
it's really fascinating because in so much of life we wear a mask on our real face, right? And we don't actually like connect with people, or we don't show authenticity. And I think what you've sort of managed to do is kind of rediscover who you are through like being a VTuber and like connecting with
yeah,
people and sharing like so much of your struggles, which I think a lot of people actually relate to, especially this stuff of sort of being an outsider, being denied in a sense a regular life, and sort of having to work through some of that loss of expectation and sort of really having to work through like, okay, I can't live a normal life. So what am I going to do? Am I just going to like, people have sort of almost given up on you. And like even doctors are sort of telling you like our goal is making you comfortable, which I'm sort of hearing you weren't really willing to accept that.
No.
And on the one hand, you had to like give up on a normal life. And interestingly enough, I think what's sort of like really inspiring about that is that by giving up on a normal life, what you've really allowed yourself to do is carve a pathway to living your life, which may not be normal, but that doesn't mean that it isn't wonderful or beautiful in some way. And that's really what I'm taking away from this conversation.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Oh God, no, thank you. I appreciate the time that we talked together today. That this has been very nice. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Likewise. And best of luck to you. And seriously, like good luck, because I think you're going to need it beyond the wall.
Yeah, I do.
All right. Take care, Mouse.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. That was fascinating. I loved it. Yeah, it's hard, man. I oftentimes, I'm serious. Like, I think it's like giving up on yourself and letting other people give up on you, letting them give up on you is just so easy to do. Right? Like, it's so easy to like just have, like expect less from people. You not going to get hurt and you're doing them a kindness, right? Because like, oh my God, like heaven forbid someone has to like put up with you and deal with your stuff. Like they deserve better. That's so much BS, man. No, they don't. They deserve the scuffed version of you. Let them have it. I'm not saying like be an asshole. I'm not saying don't work on yourself. I'm not saying like let yourself go completely. But like they deserve you in your totality, right? They deserve the best parts of you and the worst parts of you. And they deserve that you're going to work on, increasing one and decreasing the other. That's what they deserve. They don't deserve a perfect polished product. What they deserve is a beta product that's going to get better over time, okay? They deserve something like No Man's Sky, which is like, sure, it's scuffed at launch, but we're going to work on it, and it's absolutely an amazing game now, right? Because people didn't give up on it. And so that's life. Like, I don't know how else to put it, right? Like, so, don't, and because this holds us back, this concept that like, I've got to be perfect before I go and do anything. I've got to be ready. Got to be perfect and ready. I got to get in shape so I don't embarrass myself at the gym. Right? Like so much of what holds us back in life is like this kind of thinking. No, it's like give them the beta version and just work on yourself, right? What you owe them is patches on a regular basis and improvements. You don't owe them perfection from the get-go. And the problem is we hold ourselves back from so much in life because we want to be perfect before we take the first step forward. It's like one step at a time. Right? Okay. Yeah, and sometimes they need hot fixes. For sure. Right? We want to steer clear like the bad bugs. Okay, so a couple of end of stream announcements. Actually, so we may have some new people here, actually. So just to explain a little bit about who we are and what we do, welcome to the HG stream. This is ending now. So my name is Alok Kanoja. I'm a psychiatrist. Just a quick reminder that nothing we discuss on stream is intended to be taken as medical advice. Everything is just for education and entertainment purposes only. Couple of other things. So we here at Healthy Gamer HG are just like a community of people who want to like understand ourselves better and then take that understanding and like apply it to our lives so that we can build a life that we're really happy with. And like, that's what we do here. So we dig into the totality of life. We try to understand what holds us back and we try to take that understanding and really apply it to like moving forward. Okay. That's what we do here. So personally, I trained to become a monk for several years. And then I decided to not do that, and I went to medical school and became a psychiatrist. And then I sort of like realized that there's a lot that we can learn from each other that like you just can't learn in a clinical office, or like you don't need to learn in a clinical office. So that's why we started streaming. So we tried to have, powerful conversations with regular people and streamers who I think are regular people, despite them disagreeing and thinking that they're nothing special. All of us are special and all of us are wonderful. And our hope by having these kinds of conversations, and sometimes we'll do lectures and things like that. Sometimes we'll do Q&A and stuff like that. The whole goal here is to help people understand themselves better. So it's my like firm belief that the problem, like one of the biggest problems that we face in life is that we didn't need to understand ourselves because institutions and structures were so like well formulated that you don't really need to work on yourself that much, right? So like when I was, I remember visiting my ancestral village in India, and like my grandmother kind of telling me that when she grew up, there were like 120 people in the village, and you were kind of, for generations, people were just farmers. You were born, you didn't really have a choice for a job. You didn't have a choice really who you married. It was just like really about survival. But now we live in a world where like your path is not laid out in front of you. And Ironmouse, I think, does such an awesome job of demonstrating that we live in a world today where you have to understand yourself. You have to understand what you want from life. You have to understand how to form relationships. Because the problem is that no one used to teach us this stuff because it didn't need to be taught. So how do I make friends? How do I connect with people? How do I like form a healthier relationship with my parents? Like it was sort of like a non-issue back in the day. But now as we sort of have so much more choice, as technology opens so many doors, it makes things really confusing because like, how do I become successful in life? Do I become a VTuber, or do I go to college, or do I do both? Do I need to go to college if I become a VTuber? So there's like so much like stuff now that we just don't understand. And like we need to now on a level that we never needed to before. Because if 200 years ago, if I grew up in a village in India, becoming a VTuber wasn't an option. So now that we have so many options, we have so many things at our disposal, we have so many opportunities, and we also have so much stuff working against us. Like mental health is like in the worst state probably than it's ever been, or at least data seems to suggest that, right? We don't really have surveys about suicidality from like 1,000 years ago, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But we know that, for example, depression got 300% worse during the pandemic in 2020. We know that things like video game addiction and technology addiction are rising at alarming rates. Other disturbing facts out there. Do y'all know what is the most likely cause? What is the most likely thing to kill you if you are an Asian American between the ages of 20 and 24? Anyone know? What is the biggest threat to your life? Yourself, right? Number one cause of death for Asian Americans between the age of 20 and 24 is suicide. It's shocking. So there's so many things that we need to know and understand and learn now that we didn't before. And this is where sometimes I'll share my expertise, but it's not like I have all the answers. So what we do here is we like explore with each other, right? So we use certain methodologies. We have people come on, we like just talk to them. And our hope is that by talking to people and by sharing information and sharing different perspectives, we can all learn a little bit about ourselves. And hopefully by learning a little bit about ourselves, we can learn how to be better at living life. Because I think living life actually requires like, you got to work on it, right? You have to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? What motivates me? What holds me back? Why can't I trust people? Because like stuff is hard, dude. Like online dating is a mess. It's brutal out there. Like the number of people that you can get rejected by today in 24 hours is greater than you could have got. Like you can get rejected by more people in 24 hours than you could in your entire life 100 years ago. And so I don't think that the human mind, we just can't evolve that fast for that degree of rejection. And so that affects us. Technology is affecting us in novel ways. And so we need to discover new ways to kind of combat this stuff. And that's what we do here. Okay? So, yeah. So in that vein, just a couple of announcements. One is we have our new merch designs out. So these are only available for May, and all purchases go to the Healthy Gamer Foundation. So !merch for more info on that. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we have a lot of kind of like fun stuff going on. So exclamation point MHM gives you links to, I think, subs and donations and stuff like that. All subs and donations this month will go to the Healthy Gamer Foundation. We've got a couple of Discord events going on for people who are interested in more practical support. So we've got a sleeping event going on that has lectures every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central Time. And we have a check-in Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. This is to help people get on a normal sleep schedule. If y'all have a degenerate sleep schedule and you just like need to get your life in order by going to sleep on time and waking up on time, we're going to try to help you do that. We also have a Clean Your Room Together event going on that started yesterday. And so this is like if your room is a mess and you just need to like get it in order, join our Discord, start working on that kind of stuff, and hopefully you'll start to get your life in order. So we also have bot-directed study lobbies. So if y'all are working on wanting to develop good study habits or just need a place that will sort of anchor you in studying, sort of give you that behavioral support of like having a space and a time that will help you kind of focus, we've got that going on. And so we also have events on career mindset and networking that you guys can join in on every Thursday and Friday. The schedule is on our Discord. We also have more bot-guided meditations that are focused on, focusing better, ADHD, and other kinds of things. And then the last thing that we're doing, we actually just launched a career coaching program. So what we sort of noticed here at HG is that optimizing your career or even getting started with a career is something that there isn't really like a good resource on. So what we sort of noticed is that in our community, there are people that need a job and have never had a job before. There are people who are in dead-end jobs but are not in a career that they're happy with. There are people who are in careers and want to grow those careers or advance in those careers or have different kinds of problems at work. Like, for example, their work doesn't get recognized. People play politics at work. You're struggling to like make your boss happy. You're struggling to set boundaries. And in our sort of traditional HG fashion, we're going to like dive into that, understand what's going on, and then help people start to make concrete changes in their lives. So we've got a career coaching program that is now live that is going really well. So this is also where we like help people break down and understand, okay, what's going on internally. So let's say you get feedback from your boss. You come in and you say, okay, I'm doing a terrible job at work. So the first thing to understand is that you may not be doing a terrible job at work. So our coaches are sort of very adept at sort of, first of all, figuring out, is this a cognitive bias or is this like actual feedback that you're getting? So if it's cognitive bias, they'll help you work through those cognitive biases, right? Help you work through some of these things like even Mouse talked about. Like, I have low self-esteem. If you have low self-esteem, how do you think that affects your perception of your job performance? And so this is what I think is missing from a lot of the resources out there. So people will hold seminars and people will write books and stuff like that. But what's really missing in a lot of career advice is like, what is your mind's contribution to your problems, right? How much are you held back by your own perceptions and your own cognitive biases? And so once you work through those perceptions and cognitive biases, then it goes to more practical stuff. So if you get a bad performance review, how should you address that? Is this a skill gap, an effort gap, or a style gap? And there are 3 different, major reasons why you don't do well at work, assuming the feedback is legitimate. And so one of those can be something like a skill gap. So you literally don't know how to do something that you're being told to do. So how do you fix that? What are the different ways that you can correct a skill gap? How do you ask for help at work? How can you role play with your coach to sort of figure out how to pitch that to your boss in such a way that they receive it well and they give you the support that you need and teach you the skills that you need to learn? Or is it an effort gap? It's not that you don't know how to do it. It's that you're not feeling motivated or you're burnt out. How do you address effort gaps? How do you sort of discover or uncover motivation? How do you discover where burnout really comes from? So coaches are adept at helping people work with that. And the last thing is a style gap, which a lot of people don't even think about, which is that it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just you're doing it one way and someone at work wants you to do it a different way. So how do you have conversations about stylistic things that people are happy with? It's not that you're underperforming. It's just, I recently saw like something idiotic, which is that someone didn't use punctuation or didn't capitalize their name or something on a math assignment and they got a 0. And it's like, the math homework is correct. It's just You didn't include something which is like a stylistic thing. It's a preference. And sometimes we get punished for preferences, which don't actually impact our work. And so how do you have conversations about that? Do you sort of adjust your style? Do you have a conversation and sort of say to people, okay, like I'm actually doing what you're asking me to do. I'm just doing it in a different way, and kind of notifying them of that in sort of a respectful way. So there are a lot of different problems here. The point is, by sitting down, talking to people who are in these work situations, kind of in the in-depth way that we do at HG, we can come to a lot of different conclusions. And as we synthesize those conclusions over 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 clients that we've worked with, then as we kind of put all that together, we can sort of distill that into a formula that a coach can help you with. So that's what we're doing for career coaching. If y'all are interested in stuff like that, by all means, sign up. Just a reminder that career coaching, you don't have to have a career. We also help people sort of get their first job, help people who are in dead-end jobs find a job that is better for them or feels more like a career. So that's kind of what we do. That also is adjusting to the needs of what our community is and what people need nowadays. Because sometimes we're like 23 years old, we're kind of like living in mom's basement, and we like know we need to get financially independent, but we don't know how to get started. So coaches can help you with that too. So exclamation point vacation in chat gives you the link. That's wild. Why is it vacation? What? Okay. Okay. Oh, interesting. Weird. All right. I guess that's not a typo then. So last thing that we got to decide is, who are we going to raid today? Who are we going to raid? Chat? Is Ironmouse streaming? Asmongold? Okay, we can... Y'all want to raid a VTuber? We can raid a VTuber. Who's a VTuber that we should raid? In honor of Ironmouse. Shy Lily? Okay. Let's just make sure Shy Lily is streaming, because I've done that before. Also, for those of y'all that are new, I'm just a tiny bit of a boomer. Yeah, okay, it looks like Shy Lily is streaming, so let's raid Shy Lily. So we'll go to Shy Lily and, you know, Lewd Orca horror game night. Lewd Orca? What is that? I don't know, but let's go find out. Oh no, people are spoilerinoing the raid. Oh no. Let's go, chat. We'll see y'all. What is today? Today is Wednesday. We'll see y'all on Friday. Take care. Love y'all.